All right, buckle up, because today we're going deep into some serious JFK assassination territory.
Yeah, we're talking about a deep dive into the Kennedy Assassination Chronicles.
Specifically, the spring 2001 issue.
This magazine, it's like a hub for all things JFK.
A gathering place for serious researchers and anyone...
and anyone who wants to really dig into this event.
Exactly. And in this issue, we've got firsthand accounts, in-depth analyses.
Even hints of a potential cover-up.
Oh, yeah, this is going to be good.
It's a real rabbit hole.
Now, let's start with Robert Chapman, the editor of the magazine.
He penned a piece called Behind the Lines, and let me tell you, he is not happy.
No, he's not. He's shocked that a study confirming a shot from the grassy knoll didn't cause more of a stir.
And this wasn't just any study, it was by D.B. Thomas.
Published in Science and Justice, a pretty reputable journal.
That's right. And here's the thing. It backs up the findings of the House Select Committee on Assassinations.
Which also concluded there was likely a shot from the grassy knoll.
Exactly. So you've got this study, supported by a major government investigation.
And yet?
Crickets.
Chapman thinks historians and the media are kind of sweeping this under the rug.
Yeah, maybe even deliberately ignoring evidence that points to a conspiracy.
He even highlights an essay by Dr. David Mantik,
who straight up criticizes the historical community for, avoiding this whole topic.
Yeah, it's like they don't want to touch it.
So what do you think? Is there a reason for this silence around conspiracy theories? Or is something fishy going on?
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Now let's switch gears a bit and talk about some eyewitness accounts.
There are a couple of letters to the editor in this issue that are really interesting.
One from John Kellen and one from Bill Kelly.
Both of them reference a previous article by Deborah Conway
about a mysterious Secret Service man on the knoll.
So picture this. Multiple witnesses saw a suspicious guy on the grassy knoll who looked a lot like a Secret Service agent.
Kellen specifically mentions a witness named Melba James who gave a pretty detailed description. Yeah, a man in an overcoat, maybe hiding a gun.
Even warning people away from the area.
Spooky, right?
Totally. But Kelly takes it a step further.
He connects the witness description and a sketch of the man to photos of Charles Nicoletti.
Wait, Charles Nicoletti? Like this Chicago mobster?
The one and only.
What?
He suggests that Nicoletti could have been the man on the knoll, maybe handing off fake credentials to someone involved.
Okay, now that's a wild theory. But it does raise an interesting question, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
How much weight should we give eyewitness accounts in historical events like this?
They can be so compelling, but are they always reliable? I mean, memories can be tricky.
And details can get distorted over time. It's definitely something to think about.
All right, let's dive into another article, this one by Vincent Salandria, called The Tale Told by Two Takes.
This one starts with a critique of a Washington Post article by George Lardner, Jr.,
who, if you remember, wrote about that study confirming the grassy knoll shot.
That's right. Salandria basically accuses Lardner, and by extension the government,
of trying to downplay their role in a potential cover-up.
And he uses a story about his own search for the truth to back up this claim.
So Salandria spent years trying to get access to audio tapes of communications with Air Force One and the cabinet plane on the day of the assassination.
He believed these tapes held key information about the government's immediate response.
Maybe revealing stuff they didn't want the public to know.
Exactly. But here's the kicker. Those tapes have vanished.
Vanished, like completely...
Gone, baby, gone. Poof.
Wow.
Salandria argues that this disappearance, along with the quick labeling of Oswald as the lone gunman,
points to a deliberate cover-up.
Orchestrated by, as he puts it, the national security state.
Okay, now that's a pretty heavy accusation.
It is, and it raises some really unsettling questions. What happens when crucial pieces of evidence go missing like that? Can we ever really get to the bottom of things?
All right, hold on to your hats because we're about to enter the realm of double Oswalds.
Oh yeah, this is a good one. John Armstrong, a researcher, came up with this Harvey and Lee theory.
And W. Tracy Parnell wrote an article about it in this issue, focusing on the handwriting evidence.
So this theory basically says there were two men who looked like Lee Harvey Oswald,
adding a whole other layer of complexity to this whole thing.
Parnell compares handwriting samples attributed to both Harvey and Lee from different points in Oswald's life.
But he doesn't just eyeball it. He uses the analysis done by the House Select Committee on Assassinations.
They brought in top handwriting experts to debunk earlier double Oswald theories.
So what did they find?
Well, the HSCA concluded that all the handwriting samples, including those from Harvey and Lee, were written by the same person.
So does that debunk the two Oswalds theory?
It definitely throws a wrench in it.
Okay, now for another twist. This issue also dives into Lyndon B. Johnson and his connection to Don Reynolds' testimony.
Now, this requires a bit of background. In the days leading up to the assassination, LBJ was in hot water.
Oh yeah, things weren't looking good for him politically.
Reynolds was testifying about Bobby Baker, a close buddy of LBJ's.
Who was involved in a huge corruption scandal, right?
Payoffs, kickbacks, the whole 9 yards.
The article suggests that Reynolds' testimony could have dragged LBJ into the scandal.
And potentially cost him the vice presidency.
That's huge.
And get this. On the very day of the assassination, Reynolds was in the middle of giving his potentially damaging testimony.
Wait, hold on. Are you saying?
The timing is certainly interesting, isn't it?
It makes you wonder, was it just a coincidence? Or could there be a connection?
That's the million-dollar question.
This is getting intense.
Oh, we're just getting started.
I can't wait to see what else this issue has in store for us.
Makes you think twice about that lone gunman theory, doesn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
Especially when you consider how quickly they pinned it all on Oswald.
Yeah, and Salandria really goes after George Lardner Jr. for basically trying to rewrite history.
And downplay any chance of a government cover-up.
Exactly. Salandria is saying they're acting all innocent, like they're just seeking the truth.
While hiding evidence that might contradict their story.
Exactly. Remember how he spent years trying to get those audio tapes?
From Air Force One and the cabinet plane on November 22nd.
He thought those tapes held crucial info about the government's immediate reaction.
Potentially revealing things they didn't want us to know.
Exactly. And then poof, those tapes are gone.
It's like they just vanished into thin air.
Makes you wonder if someone wanted to bury those conversations.
And this LBJ connection, there's an article about that too.
Oh yeah, the link between Johnson and Don Reynolds' testimony.
Who, if you remember, was spilling the beans about that big corruption scandal.
Involving Bobby Baker, LBJ's close associate.
So picture this. LBJ, the vice president, is about to be caught up in this huge scandal.
This could have ended his career.
And then bam, Kennedy is assassinated.
And guess who becomes president?
The timing is definitely interesting.
It makes you raise an eyebrow, that's for sure.
Definitely. And then there's the whole Secret Service man on the knoll theory.
It is on all those eyewitness accounts of a suspicious guy who looked like a Secret Service agent.
Right, on the grassy knoll.
John Kellen and Bill Kelly both wrote letters about it.
Kellen mentions that witness, Melba James, who gave a super detailed description.
Saying the guy might even have had a gun.
And Kelly goes even further and links those descriptions to Charles Nicoletti.
A notorious Chicago mobster.
It's like something out of a movie.
It really makes you think about the role of organized crime in all of this.
It's a question that's been around for decades.
Speaking of decades, remember that study we talked about earlier?
The one confirming a shot from the grassy knoll?
Yeah, that one. The one by D.B. Thomas. It was based on audio recordings from Dealey Plaza.
And it suggested a high probability of a shot from the grassy knoll.
Which totally goes against the idea of Oswald acting alone.
Of course, not everyone was convinced.
There was plenty of criticism about the study.
Some experts said the audio evidence wasn't clear enough.
It shows that even scientific analysis can be debated.
And there can be multiple ways to interpret evidence.
Exactly. But let's get back to Robert Chapman's article, Behind the Lines.
He really set the tone for this whole issue.
Yeah, he was so frustrated with how people just ignore evidence of a conspiracy.
Especially historians and the media.
He specifically called them out for sticking to the official narrative.
And not really addressing the questions raised by researchers like David Mantik.
You can understand his frustration, right?
Absolutely, when you see how much evidence contradicts the official story.
It's like they're afraid to look too closely.
Maybe they don't want to face the possibility that something bigger was going on.
It's unnerving to think about.
But that's what makes publications like this so important.
They give a voice to those who challenge the status quo.
And present evidence that might otherwise be ignored.
Exactly. This deep dive has really made us think critically, hasn't it?
We've had to weigh evidence, consider different perspectives.
It's a lot to process, but it's exciting, too.
It is. And remember, this is just the beginning.
There's so much more to explore about the JFK assassination.
And we encourage you to keep digging, keep questioning.
Never be afraid to challenge the official narrative.
Who knows what you might discover? Wow, what a journey. Eyewitness accounts, scientific reports, cover-ups. Where do we even begin to unpack all this?
It's tough to pick just one thing, right?
Yeah, it really is. The sheer volume of information, the different perspectives.
And those lingering questions.
It's almost overwhelming, but so captivating at the same time.
But you know what really strikes me? The dedication of these researchers.
The folks who contribute to Kennedy Assassination Chronicles and publications like it.
They're relentless in their pursuit of the truth.
even when it means challenging the official story, like Chapman was saying.
He was so frustrated with how some people just shut down any talk of a conspiracy.
Especially historians and the media, he called them out specifically.
It makes you wonder, if there was a conspiracy, wouldn't we want to know?
Right. Wouldn't uncovering that be even more crucial? Ignoring evidence doesn't make it disappear.
It just allows those in power to control the narrative.
That's what makes independent research so important.
And publications like this magazine give a voice to those alternative viewpoints.
This whole deep dive has been like a masterclass in critical thinking.
Weighing evidence, considering different interpretations.
It's mentally exhausting, but also super engaging.
And remember, this is just the tip of the iceberg.
There's so much more out there about the JFK assassination.
Keep digging, keep asking those tough questions.
Don't be afraid to challenge what you think you know.
History is rarely black and white.
There are layers upon layers to uncover. Who knows what we might find if we keep searching?
And that's the beauty of it, isn't it? The mystery, the ongoing quest for answers.
Exactly. So what do you think? Was there a conspiracy? Who might have been involved?
This case, it's a puzzle with pieces that might never quite fit together perfectly.
But that doesn't mean we stop trying to piece it together. We encourage you to continue your own exploration, your own deep dive into the JFK assassination. What will you discover?